Hello and welcome once again. Now, what am I going to talk about today? I picked up one of these little squares and on it it says Carpe Diem. And of course it rings home, that does, to me, because as you know, Carpe Diem means grasp the day. Do appreciate your day this minute, in other words. Don't worry about the past, don't worry about the future, enjoy this minute. And it comes back to me because a friend of mine came and he phoned me up and he said, "Can I come and talk to you? I've got something that's worrying me." And I said, "Yes, please come and chat." He's a good friend, he's a nice man. And he came, and do you know what was worrying him? I hope he won't mind me saying this over the air, but he doesn't know who it is, or you don't know who it is. And he said, 14 years ago, I had this problem, and with some argument or some disagreement, and he's been worrying about that ever since, and it worried him enough to come and see me about it this week. So I thought to myself, and I said to him, I said, well, there's only one thing to do. You've got to carpe diem. You've got to live this minute. The past is past. You can't change it. The future we don't know. We might not be here. So there's only one thing to do. Carpe diem. Look for this moment. And of course, we're living in Felixstowe. We've got a lovely Roman fort just out in the sea, just off the point there. And so it's very appropriate. So remember those words, carpe diem. Anything worrying you, put it to one side, unless you can do something about it this minute. Enjoy our lives. And here am I in my 90s, and I try to enjoy every minute. I hope things don't go wrong today, having said that. Now, what I thought I would talk about today is down at the pier. They're building this huge metal structure. If you haven't seen it yet, do go down and see it while it's in the building. And it's enormous. They did tell us, of course, that they were building a new pier, but that isn't quite true. It's the main end at the on the shore end. They're building this huge structure, and it's gone up in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. And it's in metal. And of course, it's most fascinating when you think about it. This is metal construction. They've just got all the metal beams, they all bolt them together, lovely shape, it's all curved, and it's really quite remarkable. And so we've got all our buildings in Felixstowe are changing. I don't know whether you know it, but Bordsey, Bordsey Manor down at that end, that has been sold, and I'm not sure what is going to happen to it, but that's part of our history, because that, in the war, so I'm told, it was where radar was discovered, so it's a very important place, but that's been sold. And of course, as you go along all along the seafront, the old hospital, which was given by, I can't remember his name, a big citizen, and he gave it to the community, but unfortunately, of course, it's been absorbed by the council. But what they've done is very good. It's now a huge block of flats, and it's made such a difference to the seafront at this end. So that's all new and wonderful. There's been new big blocks of flats built, and I noticed they're knocking down one of the old buildings and they're going to build another huge block of flats. So, we've got new coming all the way along. And one of the parts which a lot of people don't notice, as you go past Manning's, there used to be a lovely big old building on the corner. I don't know whether it was a pub or what it was, but it's been pulled down, and there's masses of flats and houses and living accommodation. Absolutely beautiful. So all the way through Felixstowe we've got new buildings and new work, and of course down at the docks, I understand we are, of course, the biggest docks in England, but they've doubled it in size. Now, how they've doubled it in size, maybe it's doubled it in capacity. That's probably what it is. So the whole of Felixstowe seems to be coming to life. People are pouring money in. I hear Lidl's has done so well, they're building another Lidl's. And, well, this is good, isn't it? But one of the things we've all got to watch is, of course, unfortunately, the house prices are going up to match with it. So if you've got a house, treasure it, because it's going up in price. So that's a good thing. Now, looking at the pier, where they put this great metal construction up, it made me think of how construction has changed. Because there they've put up this huge building which in years gone by would have taken sort of 2 or 3 years to build. They're having it up in 6 weeks perhaps, finished and done. And this is all changing in ways of construction, because after the war, of course, they used to have a big step forward. They had what was called reinforced concrete, and that was, of course, cement with metal bars in it. And when I came out of the forces, it struck me, because you couldn't, everything was in short supply. Anything metal was in short supply, because with the war everything was taken up and used for the war. So when after the war building, it was all very limited, because they were waiting to get these bars. And of course we, the British being as we are, we used to be the biggest steel manufacturers in the world. And of course the whole world was demanding metal. And what happened? India wanted it, so this is where we came unstuck. This is part of our foolishness. We exported mountains of tons and tons of steel and metal out to India, but what did we do? We also exported to them, we sold them the steel making factories. So the Indians, of course, started making steel, and today we haven't got a steel export business. Where's it being made? In India. So we've done this so often, unfortunately, but there we are. We do these things. But as I said, after the war they had this reinforced concrete, and I remember it because you couldn't get it, and I found a factory where they had the bars were sold in big rolls. You can't imagine. They used to go from 1/4 of an inch diameter to 3/4 of an inch, which 3/4 of an inch is quite a big diameter, and they were sold in rolls. Well, of course, metal in a roll standing about this high, nothing you can do with it. It's got to be straightened. So I found this two young men. They weren't so young then, and they had a machine under the arches in Camden Town in London, and it just used like 2 jaws. They used to grip the metal and pull it through straighteners like that, and it would straighten out these bars and then cut them off at the length that they wanted. And we got together, I financed them, and we did a tremendous business, and that was actually, it was on that money that I got married. And of course it brings me back memories. I was married for 65 years, and a wonderful marriage, but she was an angel. Anyone who can put up with me for 65 years must be an angel. But she was marvellous, and she was my secretary at the time. And I did this metal straightening, and we went on our honeymoon, and I'll always remember the young man who was, doing the actual work. He phoned me up. He said, "Are you all right for money, Eric?" I said, "Yes, I've got plenty of money. There's nothing to worry about." And of course, when I got back, I found out why he'd done it. What he'd done, I'd left him a lot of signed cheques. This shows you never sign a blank cheque. I've never signed a blank cheque ever since. And I'd left him all these signed cheques, and he'd used the signed cheques to settle all his own debts. And he'd cleared my account, and that was the end of my steel business. So when I look at reinforced concrete, I always think of that, which is what have you. But it goes back, of course, before that, we had bricks, brick building. Once they discovered a cavity wall, you all know what a cavity wall is. They have a row of bricks, single row of bricks, then a cavity, a blank bit, and then a second row. So of course the damp doesn't go through the wall. The warmth is kept in, and it's a marvellous thing. We use it for all our houses now. But what people don't realise is that before they had the cavity walls, they used to have thick walls. If you look at a very old building, they're anything up to 3 foot thickness. And why was that? It was because the wet and the rain and the damp, it would come in from the outside. The warmth would come in on the inside, and there would be a gap of the wall, because wall was so thick that kept them apart. So I used to have Arundel Priory many years ago, brought my big family up there. It had 70 rooms in it. It was, I think I've told you about it before, but to warm it, heat it up, it's just an incredible job. And of course these big thick old walls made all the difference. But things changed so much. I went into, they're building a new block of flats just near us at this end of Felixstowe. You know, the Harvest House end of Felixstowe. And I thought, well, the ceiling felt a bit low. And I thought, well, I asked the people who were showing me around, they said, it's now 7 foot is the standard height for ceilings. Well, of course, the standard height for ceilings for years has been 8 foot. And of course, before that, if you go into a Victorian house, it's much higher. It goes up to 12 foot. Now, I put my thinking cap on. I thought, well, why on earth is the ceiling, heights of ceiling coming down? And then I realised what it was. Of course, everybody had fires, didn't they? Had a fireplace and you had a coal fire in it. Now, if you've got a coal fire, what comes out of it is the chimneys there, the smoke goes up the chimney, but a lot of it used to come into the room. So, of course, you had to have a high ceiling so that the smoke, if it came in, went above your head and it didn't interfere with you. But of course now we have central heating, we've got fires, electric fires, gas fires, and there's no smoke at all. And this is the reason, of course, why they can bring the ceilings down, because there's no smoke, they don't need the height. And in a block of flats, as this one I went round, you know, having 1 foot off each floor, you've got an extra floor. So it does make sense, doesn't it? Now, just to finish off, I thought, well, have you thought about how people lived? Way back when it all started, how did they do it? They used to have a big barn, or a barn-like room, and everyone was in it. They used to have their animals in there, they lived in it. They had a big fireplace in the middle of the room, and they used to have a hole in the roof above it, and everybody was in it. And sometimes if you look at old chairs, you will see that they've got a bar just about 2 or 3 inches off the floor in the front. Now, why is that? It's because they used to have straw and litter and the animals on the floor, and you had that bar, so if you sat in that chair you could put your feet on the bar and you didn't have to put it down in all the muck. And of course we progressed from there. They then started having chimneys and fireplaces. They started putting the animals outside, dividing it up, and this is how, you know, the modern house came about. So I've rather rattled on. I'm always interested in these things. I hope you are too. I want you to have a lovely day, lovely week. Thank you for looking, and goodbye and good luck. Take care. God bless you.